What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get to it.
From 2022, the design of the E65 doesn't look so amazing, but for the beginning of the noughties it is quite progressive. There is an advertised aluminum front end. The suspension cups, wings and hood are made of winged metal. The longitudinal members and all transition elements to the engine shield struts are also aluminum, but they are supported by developed steel power elements of the engine shield. In the next models, the idea of aluminum spars was abandoned, and otherwise there is not much difference. Thus doors here are all steel, and the share of high-strength steels in E60 even now is noticeably higher than in the whole industry. And the design in general is very interesting, just technological. Thresholds are extremely simple, box-shaped, and for fastening of external plastic shell is intended a squashable bracket from soft steel along the whole length. The point is that high-strength steels are very badly stamped, and it is not easy to make complex-shaped parts from them, and this solution looks close to the ideal. In the future, this is how the interior cage will be formed in the ultra-high-strength cars F0102 compared to the E39. The car has grown a little. The flagship 7 could not be increased indefinitely either. The quality of manufacturing of the car, saturated with technologies, comfort and safety options, is excellent. In terms of layout, the E60 is not surprising at all. It is a typical BMW with longitudinally arranged motors from inline 4 to V10, including, of course, people's favorite inline 6 and V8, basic rear-wheel drive and optional all-wheel drive in sedan and station wagon bodies. Suspensions are also typical for Bavarians, McPherson in front and Multilink rear. But constructively they are very complicated. In front there are two lower ball bearings, hydraulic-filled silent blocks, almost all elements are aluminum, and even a brake disc here with an alloy center. At the rear, too, the triumph of aluminum and the maximum level of technology. Of course, there are electrically adjustable shock absorbers, electromechanical stabilizer bars and other delights of the beginning of the century. The steering has a twist, too. Among the common options is active steering, with a planetary splitter between the rack and the steering wheel. In this case, the shaft of the rack is rotated not only by a person, but also by an electric motor. This allows to realize virtual change of steering ratio and thrusting, unfortunately, at the cost of loss of reactive action on the steering wheel and unambiguous steering. It's a good thing that the company later abandoned this very strange option in favor of conventional electric power steering. Cars with conventional rakes are also found, but they are in minority. By complexity and saturation with electronics, E60 has eclipsed absolutely everyone who was in this class before it. A huge number of programmable blocks, connected by different tires, including optical. Literally every block of buttons here is digital. In every element of the car some electronics is lurking. At the same time, there are a lot of variants of performance both in terms of equipment level and simply modernizations by year of manufacture. The revolutionary iDrive system is just the tip of the iceberg, just a user interface available to the driver. Inside, there's much more in the way of customization options. And the compatibility of the equipment with newer cars, particularly the E70, opens up the possibility of further modernization. Of course, now the whole functionality of the multimedia system is realized much simpler, without optical buses and dozens of blocks. But in any case, this design impresses even nowadays. In general, surprisingly breakthrough for its era car, which is still perceived as complex and technically interesting. Bodywork. Exterior panels. Outside corrosion is worth looking for, especially if the car is from Moscow, St. Petersburg and northern regions, where in winter they like to sprinkle salt and sand on the roads. There are chances to find rust on the edges of the rear arches, the joint of the rear wing and bumper, the seam of the trunk lid, or even on the lower edges of the doors. If there are no traces of corrosion, go through a thickness gauge in search of poor quality repairs. Amateurs putty on the rust still do not survive. Small chips on the hood, fenders and roof edge almost never develop into something bigger. Even the steel roof holds up well, and the aluminum front panels are almost invulnerable, only the paint is gradually peeling in places of damage. Large pockets of rust on other elements are almost certainly the result of early damage and poor quality repair paint. Even in cars produced before 2005, the quality of paintwork is high, and after the model allegedly began to paint even better. In any case, so say the legends of BMW drivers, and we have not found frankly rusty copies. Few reports about repairs obviously hint that Bavarians are painted better than other German brands of those years, and they have less corrosion outside. However, there are a couple of essential nuances. Often BMW is first of all a favorite toy. An E60 is still at the age when it is played with by well-to-do boys who fix it on conscience. The second nuance is waiting a paragraph below. From below it is worth to drive the car on an elevator, and the difference between really well-groomed car from warm lands and typical Moscow E60 of street storage will be clearly seen. High-strength steel, aluminum panels and plastic underbody protectors are good, of course. But the E60 does not have a thick layer of anti-corrosion protection with anti-gravel on the underbody. In the best case, after removing the aerodynamic screens and washing the underbody, one can see a lot of small corrosion centers on flat elements and significant centers on brackets and corners of the underbody sections, near joints and welds. And also uniform dry rust over the fuel tank. In the worst case, a continuous carpet of rust centers in some places with perforated sills in their flat part, near plugs, over brake pipes, fuel lines and especially at the exhaust system of autonomous heater. There is almost no corrosion in the rear arches and in the front except that the transverse amplifier behind the wheel suffers a little and above the seams of the bracket at the engine shield. The rest cannot rust in principle. The cup is aluminum, as well as its struts. The mudguard of the engine compartment is plastic. The spar is aluminum, well covered, has no obvious galvanic couples and is sealed. But under the trunk boxes of side niches, spare wheel niche and rear panel under the bumper booster are rusting all over. Here, too, the most unfortunate copies can already have through corrosion. Inspecting the inside of the body is also important. Water ingress into the cabin is possible not only because of traditional for BMW problems with door sealing, when due to clogged drains. Water rises inside the door and flows into the cabin through membrane leaks in places of loose sealant. Manhole drains are clogged comparatively often, and also there are unsuccessful seals of radiator of heater, and it is delicate, extremely. Does not like tightened intervals of antifreeze replacement. And love of BMW drivers to change plugs on radiator is also understandable. It is better to change a plug once a year than to get boiling water on legs. Leaks often happen through the gland of the wiring from the overmotor niche overflow box with a clogged drain under the brains. An unsuccessful dry cleaning also nobody cancelled. Floor carpet is thick, water accumulates a lot, not all of it goes away. If there is an odor of antifreeze or moisture, it is worthwhile to lift the carpets. From the inside, the floors rust quite readily. In the trunk, too, pay attention to the search for moisture. There are a lot of blocks of electronics, even under the stock block of the Parktronic and another, and floods the niche often. Inside niches with moisture also everything is unfavorable. It is desirable to anticorrate them from outside and inside, but usually owners do not bother. And the battery creates acidic environment in case of faulty ventilation. The good thing is that almost all elements are relatively easy to repair. The sills and spars are box-shaped, and the factory wax coating is present. But it is better, of course, to look for a car that does not yet need bodywork of such complexity. Especially since the price depends mainly on the appearance, and it usually has no connection with the problems on the bottom. Of course, even the most killed E60 is unlikely to have holes in the floors and loss of body strength if there was no accident. But rust will destroy the metal further. A separate story about the complex aluminum. There are no problems with the exterior panels. The fenders may have rotten bottom brackets, but there are no other problems. Everything is thoroughly insulated through plastic inserts, and real galvanic corrosion is possible only at the junction of the spars and engine shield brackets. There the elements are not badly covered to prevent access to oxygen and moisture, and materials are selected to minimize the risks of delamination. But it is definitely worth checking. An endoscope will help you. White oxides near the contact points are not a healthy symptom. At the same time, it is worth considering all rivet connections from inside the arch. From above, they are usually covered with a layer of sealant. There are very few cases of actual destruction of the engine shield and spar connections, and all of them are caused by poor quality repairs, and all of them are old. Restoration after serious damage is almost impossible for aluminum parts. But nowadays, even steel fenders, if they are badly dented, are tried to be replaced. In the case of E60, the main problem is the attachment of the spar to the engine shield. It is difficult to make as from the factory, and attempts to straighten on the slipway very rigid aluminum profile leads to cracks. If the geometry is changed, the parts only need to be replaced, and the issue here is the quality of the fasteners. The suspension cup and side elements of the front panel are easy enough to replace, rivets and glue are widely available, no super technology. The area of welded seams is minimal, but the repair should use elements and rivets only from approved alloys, and adhesives should be of high quality and follow all techniques of joint preparation, with careful sealing. Body equipment E60 has surprisingly few problems with body equipment, or against the background of other nuances of operation, owners simply do not notice them. The main complaints are weak threads in the aluminum suspension cups and intermediate center support for attaching struts. BMW recommends installation of special screwdrivers according to aviation technology. However, repair kits are already available on Chinese aggregator sites at ridiculous prices. The main thing is to know how to solve the problem. Surprisingly, initially the threads in aluminum are self-tapping and in fact, disposable. Although the struts are removed even at regular maintenance, not to mention large repairs with removal of intake manifolds and digging in the underhood wiring. Unpleasant surprise are lock grubs, when flooding can short-circuit and lower the windows completely or click the central lock. The keyless entry system handles can drain the battery and generally do not last long due to poor sealing. The headlights are also far from ideal. The headlamps are annoying not only because of lens burnout and plastic rubbing, but also because of constant condensation. The ventilation system is not elaborated, many people try to plug it, but it is definitely not a solution, as well as bags with silica gel cat filler inside. Also, the butyl headlight sealant cracks over time, strange but true. But problems with power windows are minimal. A lot of attention is paid by owners to the condition of small fittings, selection of style kits and other improving and customizing. It feels as if all E60s are regularly in detailing and are being modernized with more and more new missing elements of large equipment sets. Often small scuffs on the coating force the owner of the 5 to look for a new set of parts or change the style. Part original price of non-original 2 body front headlight 64 151 not available xenon headlight 141 975. Not available windshield 98 765 kmk 5 885 FYG 8 151 front fender not available TYG 5 269 Blick 19 747 front bumper 233 336 Blick 19 538 TYG 8 974 hood not available TYG 16 137 set 22 862 aluminum interior. The interior of the cars is strong and the quality of materials is pleasing. Besides, as a rule, cars are taken care of, so there are almost no serious wear and tear problems. From frequent breakages, killed encoders buttons of the tape recorder and climate and dead microcircuit of its regulation. Climate, aka IKHA, is more often simply changed, but you need to know the nuances and ways to increase the block electrically. Compressors of air conditioners here with volumetric adjustable capacity, but there are with and without clutch. Accordingly, blocks and wiring can be with and without such. By the way, such variability is peculiar to the majority of saloon electronics. Often, having the exact specification of the machine for full service is simply necessary. And there is enough of all sorts of little things in the equipment. From projection on the windshield to the notorious iDrive and other car communication computer and car information computer, CCC CIC. About nuances of multimedia systems application, how to put CCC from E70 to increase blocks of external communication, COMBOX, to change ASK1 to ASK1, probably, it is possible to write a material of 2 such articles. We will confine ourselves to the statement of the fact that inside the car is a big constructor with huge possibilities. And it is extremely complicated, with extremely high price of mistakes. If you are lazy to play, there are Chinese multimedia centers all-in-one in the format compatible with BMW console. Electrics. If to forget that all E60 is a solid electric Lego and probably a solid problem with electronics after an inexperienced electrician. The main trouble is a plus wire from a battery. The factory plus should definitely be changed to a modernized one and carefully monitor its sealing on the trunk side and condition in general. A great many E60s have died in flames due to melted entry to the passenger compartment relay box and damage to the main core on the underbody. A firm service knows what to change and how. Believe me, this is extremely important. The other harnesses also cause problems, but not as much. External harnesses, including four-wheel drive, front and rear parking sensors, shock absorbers and body height sensors, are mostly troublesome. It's best to keep a close eye on the car's wiring, especially the external harnesses under the bumpers. At the generator, it is worth paying attention to the overrunning clutch, which is prone to souring, and the relay regulator, which suffers from high motor temperatures. With high mileage, which is not surprising for the E60, there is also wear of the manifolds and bearings. And the starter also fails mechanically. Visually whole and well-maintained body of the 5 can give a deceptive impression of just perfectly resistant and unpretentious. But in fact it is almost always the fruit of quality maintenance, and in repair it can be quite difficult. And we should not forget, despite of age, E60 is a real premium automobile of new generation, which gives an opportunity to touch perfection and high technologies, but in return requires attention, qualitative and professional service, and is initially doomed to be expensive in repair. Whether it refers to the motors, transmission and suspension, we will tell you in the next article. In conclusion, the BMW 5 Series E60 stands out with its complex aluminum body and an impressive array of electronics, showcasing the brand's commitment to innovation and performance. However, potential buyers should remain aware of the fire hazard concerns associated with this model. While it offers a thrilling driving experience and luxurious features, thorough research and careful consideration are essential before making a purchase. Ultimately, the E60 can be a rewarding choice for enthusiasts, provided they are prepared for the challenges that come with its advanced technology.